Hey everyone, in this video we're going to show you how to draw a bald eagle's beak. So grab your pencils and let's get drawing. So we're going to start off with just the general shape of what we're doing. It's going to be the beak and the face and the eyes. We'll start with the beak in this general area, and it hooks down, hooks back, and you'll have this piece below, kind of over here, probably a bit lower. And then over here around this part of the beak, basically go back in. Over here, you kind of go back up. Okay, this is probably gonna be higher. And then down here, you'll kind of have some fur, some feathers just over here. And this will kind of go into the body of the eagle down below. So this is kind of the rough outline of what we're gonna be drawing. And we're just gonna draw that. We're not gonna draw the back, the top, we're just gonna go to this. And what we'll probably do is we'll go back and probably get the eye on over here. Okay, just like that. Around the eye, kind of this fierce, very frilly brow just sitting over there. Anyway, that's kind of the structure that we're gonna do. I definitely wanna just clean up this beak. It kind of looks a little messy already. Yeah, so there's kind of this upper ridge over here. And if you go down, kind of really does hook around. I wouldn't say a circle, but I would say very circle-like. So I kind of hooked it down a little fast. I think this kind of shape is a lot better. So I'm just gonna, and this whole drawing, I'm gonna take my time and do actually very detailed drawing. So it might take some time. I'm actually gonna give you instruction all the way through. So if you're drawing along, that's great. If you're just watching, that's great as well. This video will have some sped up parts as well as some instruction. I'm also going to give you some facts about eagles as well, just kind of show you and tell you some facts. For example, bald eagles have very large nests. Bald eagles' nests are about 5 to 6 feet in diameter. So imagine a nest that's 5 to 6 feet across, almost the length of the height of the average person as well. Some of the nests are 2 to 4 feet tall, so that's quite incredible when you think of those nest size. And those are in trees. If the tree is strong enough, the eagle will keep that nest and just build on it year over year. If the tree does not support it or something happens to the nest, they'll probably just find another stronger, more suitable spot for the nest. So yeah, you know, bald eagles are very strong creatures and quite large as well, so they need a good sized nest. So anyway, we're just doing the beak. I'm just making sure that I'm happy with this part of the beak. When the beak comes up over here, you have this kind of upper and lower part, right? So the lower part is probably going to be like this over here, kind of this underneath part, and then the upper part kind of comes up and probably right around here and back. Now it is quite tricky. It goes right below the eye, and I would say from here, you might want to curve up and go back like this. I would say somewhat straight. Now, over here, I'll add detail later. The beak itself does have some jaggedness to it, and I'm guessing just because the bird is going to be chomping down on different things. But right over here, there's a sharp turn. The beak probably takes a bit of a jaggedy piece like that, like I said, from chomping and stuff like that. We'll just fix this up over here, and we will probably just go back in a way it just goes back like that. I would say just below the eye is pretty accurate. Believe it or not, the beak goes right back, and you'll see later there's this whole pattern that goes below the beak as well. If we're gonna do that, I would say this could probably be just a little bit thinner. You don't want it to go too low. It's not realistic. So we'll go back up like this, and we'll go back like probably like this. Okay. Let me just sharpen my pencil quick. The beak can have a bit of rounding at the bottom, which is the base part. And if you're going to round the bottom, you might want to just do it ever so slightly. It's very subtle. But anyway, that's kind of what we're getting at here, and there's this piece over here. So that's that, and the beak also has this kind of nostril-like piece just over here. And yeah, I think that looks pretty accurate in terms of the position. So if the nostril is like this, okay, the nostril will come down just like that, as well as have a piece that goes like this. And the piece will curve back onto the ridge, okay? So over here, roughly, you'll have this shaded part. This is the inside of a nostril, just like any kind of nostril, if you will. So we'll do that. And this part actually goes over here and over. Now, notice that I'm curving, right? This is creating a 3D effect for the top of this beak. The beak actually comes around like this, and over here is where that ridge appears. It's a direct result of that nostril-like piece, and I'm sure there's another nostril on the other side. So you kind of have this piece that exists. Now, there's really not any opening over there. I don't want to imply that there's some sort of nostril over there, but the nostril is definitely just on the side, okay? Now, if the nostril is there, you'll probably want to get this piece going back down and around and just connecting over there. Okay, so kind of like that. So hopefully you're seeing this slowly come together. The piece of the top of the beak, which is the upper beak, just could go like this. And we might want to just clean up those rough lines we did before. So if we did that, if we have the rough part of the beak over here, what we can do is start over here and work our way down. We'll have some feathering, okay? So if there's feathering up here, what we can do is just start to go like this. And you definitely want to make sure that you have a very sharp pencil or the sharp edge of a pencil. And you're essentially just doing this until you kind of create the part of the feathers that connect to the beak. So what that means is just kind of doing this kind of pattern. And on the bald eagle, you basically will start here and go back. Nothing there, nothing, you know, out of the ordinary, nothing surprising. So yeah, I'm just looking at my measurements here, making sure I'm good. You'll see some feathering come down, but for now we'll just start at the upper. So what I'll do is I'll speed this up. I'm gonna take my time, but you'll see a time-lapsed version of this part, and I'll be back. So just sit tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. We did all the feathering here. You can see I started from the top and worked my way down and just tried to get some long and short feathering. So the short feathering is on the beak curves down. There's kind of this patch, nostril still there. The eye will go in over here. I had it lower before, but that was wrong. So the eye will go in right over here. Very short hair on the beak, which becomes longer as you go about here. So right at this point, before the eye, the feathers will start to get longer and longer, just around the head as well. Oh, I need some water. So anyway, we're continuing to work on this. The beak is pretty smooth for the most part, except in some places you might notice some like scar lines from like interactions with other animals or whatever instances that happen. So you might even want to get some lines on the beak just to show like some realism as well. And if you're going to do that, you might want to curve it. So you might want to actually show that there's like a bit of a curve to it. Later, what you can do is maybe even just get a couple scratch lines on the beak just to kind of show realism, okay? What we'll do now is we'll start to put the slightest bit of shading on the beak. And the reason we're doing this is just to create some realism for the drawing. However, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you grab a different pencil, maybe a 5B, which is a nicer way to do some of the shading, and just ever so slightly create, I guess just this what I call edging. So these lines right around the edge will start to make this beak look a little more realistic if you just start to pull away like that. So you can do that, and you can just use whatever smudge technique works for you and just start to like let the lead move around the page a little bit. So that's all I'm doing right now. I'm just gonna start simple. I could later expand this, but I just wanted to start and just kind of start to make some progress on the beak as well. So, you know, that is already starting to look a lot better. And you know what? I'll probably go over the line. I'll go over the line on purpose just to make this look as realistic as possible. So we'll do that. And even on this side over here, the interesting thing about the bottom of the beak, like right over here, it's very light. So this part here is actually very light, and the reason is because I believe that's the part that kind of will either chomp down on stuff and have the most interaction. So it might either wear down quite a bit as well. So then what you want to do is go back to a nice thinner pencil, you know, anything that's thinner, sharp, and just slowly get that piece back. This is not a point, this is ever so slightly curved. And then what you want to do is just go back up, and you could even draw a little bit of an indentation as well, just to show some realism. A couple indentations doesn't hurt, just like that. And we'll go up, and even a nice indentation up here just to show, you know, a couple spots that are real, right? This is a real animal. So animals in the wild, they get around, they hunt, they chomp, they eat, and they do all kinds of stuff. So I am specifically trying to show that, okay? I'm gonna use my eraser just to get rid of some that went over the edge, which happens all the time. And you might notice, like, I don't really have any protective pieces there. Like some people put some protective paper or use a glove. I kind of just like it open and natural and just kind of just deal with it as it happens. I know that some drawings that's not possible, but you know, for the most part, I'm actually okay with that process. So I don't know about you. How do you find, what's your best way to avoid these issues? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So the beak is looking a lot better already. I think what I'm gonna do is continue on the beak, but I'll speed it up just to show you in a time-lapse format kind of what this looks like when we pull it together. So stay along, I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. We did a lot of work on the beak, the fur, the feathers, the eye, and all kinds of stuff. Did you know that during the 1970s, bald eagles were seriously endangered, and they've since made a remarkable comeback, and in 2007, they were removed from the federal endangered species list. So they were really endangered for quite a while, and it's great that they were able to get them back and really just protect this beautiful, beautiful species. You can see we did a lot of work around the eye. There's an eyelid up here. There's fur around the eye. There's a lot of dark underneath, which we're going to add into the darkness. I keep saying fur. There's feathers. There's feathers up at the top. You have some feathers over here. So yeah, we're just continuing to work on this. I would probably say that just over here, you also have some feathering just around here. And if you notice the really short feathering, I just do with a little hit of the pencil and always in one direction to try to keep it looking, realistic. So I'll just start to do that. I'll walk you through this process. I won't speed this part up, but I'll just guide you through it. So just continuing to kind of move a little bit astray, but not too much astray. Like you want the feathering to look realistic, but you don't want it to look like it's all in pattern. Like feathering is sort of realistic if it's natural. So you kind of want to just move it around a little bit. So follow along as I do this. I'll get longer as you go away from this part of the beak. So as you go away, just go longer and just continue. The bald eagle, if you probably already knew this, but it's been the national emblem of the United States of America, a very well-known figure for that country. And I would say that it's the firm kind of structure and fierce look to it and stability and all these things that kind of come along with it, right? So that's kind of what the bald eagle has been known for, as being kind of the symbol of the United States of America, which is not surprising at all. Very common. I think since the year was 1782 that was actually established, that the bald eagle was the official kind of emblem of the United States of America. So back here, by the way, I'm just kind of doing even more feathering, and the feathering gets longer as you go away. So I'll just actually move a lot faster, and I will keep this going over here. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Over here, there's a bit of a lip. It's hard to explain, but it is literally like a lip on the beak. And below the lip is the fur, the feathers, and above the beak is no feathering. So you have to have a very clear line with that. So keep that in mind. You really want that line to be very, very clear. And if you want, you can grab a darker pencil and even just put in a few feathers just below there to kind of show the separation. You don't want a lot of white space below there. That's really not going to look well with your feathering. So you definitely want to have darker space below. And it kind of makes sense because below that, if the feathering is darker, it kind of represents like a bit of a tighter area, like less light coming in, and there's a lip, right? There's actually a physical, lip just over here. And maybe what we can do is even just pronounce that lip with an eraser hit. See that? I was going to do it later, but I might as well do it since I'm explaining this to you. So certainly that lip is something that you want to show off, okay? The lip kind of dissolves into the beak, so there's no clear break point of when the lip disappears. It just kind of blends into the beak, if you will. So keep that in mind. As well as on the this part of the beak, the lip is more pronounced, like there's a darker line here. But as you go back, this line starts to fade away. So I purposely did that as well, okay? Now I'm trying not to get my head in this because I want to put my head right on top and draw, but I'm going to really try not to do that. Now over here, you're also going to have some feathering over here, and I'm going to use my darker pencil to really get this showing well. But this part of the lips of the beak is actually just over here, and you would show it with, yes, an eraser hit, just like we did at the bottom. Okay, just like that. However, you'll also get some of the feathering done just above it, really just above it, just kind of going back. And it goes back, like a lot of birds have the feathering that kind of goes back because with aerodynamics and things like that, a lot of the feathering kind of moves away, right? So what else was it going to tell you? I believe bald eagles can dive when they're flying. They can dive down up to 100 miles an hour, and when they're not diving down in a fierce predatory way, they are flying at about 30 miles an hour. So there's definitely different speeds, but between 30 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour is quite remarkable when you think about it. So yeah, I'm just putting in some more feathering. You can kind of see that as well. Just kind of getting that on there. Now I'm using a darker pencil at this point. I really would like to have like a variation in the feathering, like some lighter and some darker. Probably mix between an HB, a 5B, and this is a 7B. So definitely want to make sure I kind of show that as well, and especially around the eye. The eye has this very, very fickle kind of feathering happening just around it like that, and as a result you might want to even just do this with a darker pencil. It shows a lot better, and this goes right around. So what you can do is get this going right around the eye, just like that. Okay, so that's looking a lot better already. If that's there, you want to get the blending of the feathering there. So the feathering is actually going to come around like this and just keep going, keep going, keep going. And I'm just going to repeat this. I'm not going to rush this at all. So what I'll do is I'll speed this part up and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. I'm continuing to work on this, just making sure that I'm really happy with what I have, and it's looking to my liking, and it is. I'm just cleaning up some stuff over here, and I'm gonna work on the feathering at the bottom, but once I do that, we're gonna be almost done, so just keep that in mind. It's a beautiful creature. Actually, they say about bald eagles that they actually have two centers of focus. That means they can look forward and sideways at the exact same time. So they don't need to change their focus in the eye, which is quite astounding when you think about it. So I believe that makes them really good hunters. I'm just guessing, but that's the reason. But that and the ability to swoop down in the beak and all these different things, right? So anyway, I'm working on the feathering over here. I think I said I'm going to focus on the beak. So at this point, I'm really just going to get this pattern going like this. And as you know, I just kind of, when I do the feathering, I just get some lines going like this and just astray a little bit, but also keep it in the same direction. So as you go away from the beak and the neck, and you go towards the neck, you kind of start to have this pattern where they get a bit longer. When they get longer, they're kind of more full out feathers versus little bits of tiny little feathering, right? So also the beak is on top of these down here. So you need to make sure that these featherings down here, the feathering that you're drawing, you're also below the beak. Very important to note that, and you want to make sure that you don't mess that up. If you want, you can use your own smudge technique to kind of put some elements of upper and lower, like the beak is above and the feathering is below, so you can do that as well. I'm going to continue doing this over here and just kind of, slowly move away. Like I want this drawing to be done in a way where the focus is on the beak. This is a little dark here, so all I have to do is hit it with my eraser just to kind of lighten it up. That's all I really want to do is lighten it up. In fact, the beak really is the fur on the beak, sorry, is a very, very, very tiny, very minuscule type of fur that feathers that is just tiny and just literally just barely, you know, off the beak. And it's, I don't know if they call it beak fur or not or what have you. I'm not an animal expert, but I know that it's very, very tiny. So just something to keep in mind as well. So as we start to pull this all together, I just look at, you know, what have I done, what needs to be improved and things like that. At this point, I'll basically look at saying, is the feathering to my liking? I purposely did some darker pieces over here, and it's not really as dark as I want, so I'm just gonna get some more pencil over there and really darken it out. I really want to darken that out as much as I can. This over here should be like this, so some of these feather lines should be like just like that. So yeah, just kind of working on this, continuously working on this until I'm happy. I find that it's really the pieces at the end that really start to make your drawing come together. Like this piece here is like, I guess it's the eyebrow, but it's too thick right now. So in order for us to like thin this out and lighten it out, you might want to just get a little bit more like feather lines above, and you can already see that looks a lot more realistic. Look at any picture of a bald eagle and it has a very slight, you know, very slight eyebrow, if you will. So anyway, you know, these are just little things. You know, I just continue to look at it and look at, you know, what do I like, what don't I like, what can be improved. And I continue to do that. I just put some more feathering down at the bottom. And like I said, I'm focusing on the beak. So I actually purposely want to just like let this fade away. I'm not going to have thick feathering over here. I purposely am doing that. So don't get that confused, by the way. Certainly not something I'm missing. I just want to, you know, have a nice transition from, you know, white page to bird beak, right? What I noticed is I get a lot of requests for drawing of bird beaks. Like there's actually a lot of people who want us to, you know, do some bird beak drawings and just try to do different things like blue jays and eagles and things like that. You know, there's a lot of demand for requests for us to draw that, and it's nice. It's nice. I'm happy to do that. Yeah, that's what I noticed. How about you? Are you drawing along or are you just watching? Either way is fine. Please let us know. We love to hear from you. It's really nice to hear from our fans and subscribers. If you don't currently subscribe, please hit subscribe. We try to release a new drawing video every single day. And aside from drawing videos, we have all kinds of great content on the channel as well. So you might actually find, you know, there's a lot of stuff on our channel that's very useful and helpful and informative. So I truly hope that you do enjoy the channel, and don't be afraid to kind of let us know what you like or what you'd like to see on the channel. It's also nice to hear from people as well. At the time of this drawing, we've been at this for 2 years. If you're watching this at a much later time, you know, probably several years will go by and we've done a lot more, but it's been a journey. We've actually done a lot of work on this channel just to get things to a point. So yeah, it's really nice to see things come together. The bald eagle here, I think we're starting to pull this together. I think we're almost done. I'm not entirely, you know, complete on this, but for me, I'm starting to feel like it's something I'm happy with. But in any drawing, you don't really want to finish it off until you're 100%. I'd say I'm about 98%. And let's just also agree that down over here, you also have some feathering over here. So I'll probably just put this on just to kind of show that there's a bit of a bulkier body there as well. And I'll just kind of quickly put this together as well. The smudge technique is really nice to kind of let the lead from the pencil move around the page. And in doing so, you just kind of, you get your hands get dirty, but you're able to really move and feel and, you know, just really get a nice drawing together. The bottom of the beak is obviously darker. You might also have just a bit of like curves or dents or whatever you want to call them on the beak. So the beak might actually look a little more realistic if you get just a little bit of just realism down at the bottom, like just some lines that kind of go like that. So that's all I'm just kind of putting on over there. And the lips over here, whatever you want to call it, this piece is, like I said, actually meant to be kind of clean and open like that. So you can give it another eraser hit if you like, but don't worry if you erase a little bit of the other tiny feathering as well. You can always just add it back with a little bit of a pencil hit there as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this and saying, you know, how could I improve this? How can I finish this off? Maybe just some lines around the outside could help, just making this look just a little more realistic. And just like that, you might want to get that line back that we put on earlier. Just a little bit of smudging as well. And, you know, we start to look at this and kind of ask ourselves, are we happy with this? Is there maybe just a little bit down below here you want to add? I think it should just be a little lower. So this piece here could be a little lower, and I'm happy to just quickly put a line on for you just to kind of show you. And then over here, maybe just getting a little more feathering just to kind of show, because I kind of smudged a lot of it too. So there's a real transition from beak to, you know, fur down over here, at the, you know, the fur down below, and it's kind of this transitionary fur, as they say. And in doing so, just hitting the page with the pencil in this continual kind of way, it's just really nice to kind of see it transform, like right in front of you. And that's basically what I'm doing at this moment. Up here, I noticed some dark around the eyelid, which is fine, but it gets very light right away. So I might want to just fill in a little bit of that. And in doing so, I might say, grab something dark like a 7 and just get a little more darkness just to show some nicer transition as well. You don't want to go from like very dark strokes to very light strokes too quickly. If you do that, it starts to look a little almost like you missed something, like you forgot something. So it is kind of nice if you can purposely transition from dark to light. So keep that in mind. You know, I look around, I look at some lines, I look at this over here. Okay, so at this point, we really want to look at what we have and just see how we can improve and make some final adjustments. There's a few things I see already that I want to improve, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. The first thing is the eye. I'd like the eye to be a little more round. So in doing so, you know, this part I feel is not round enough, so we can bring this down, but then it starts to impact this area. So if it does, we might have to do some erasing. Let's see. So let's get this a little more round, and we'll just slowly try to keep this moving like this. And like I said, just get it round. You can also help make it more round by getting just some of these little lines. Like I put these tiny little lines here to kind of give some realism to the eye. I think even on an eagle's eye, they help show the realism to the eye. So I just want to put those on, and yeah, just a little bit, just a little going into the eye like that could actually make this look very realistic. I'm not sure the eagle has that much in terms of these lines. I think there's a lot of white in the eagle's eye, but definitely, these are just little things that I'm doing now. I want that to be darker, so I'm gonna get a darker pencil and just try to get in a little bit of dark around the outer part of the eye. So already I'm liking the fact that I did that, and hopefully you do too. That's one of the things I wanna fix. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're looking okay for the roundness here. I mean, it's not perfect, but you want it, if you're gonna do it, like, let's make it good there. I think that's a lot better in my opinion. I think up here we definitely want to get that a little darker as well. Okay, great. So we did that. There is another thing that's kind of bothering me that I think we should really address, and I think it's the depth of the beak. I think that the beak was too high over here, and I just want to bring it down. So I know it's kind of done, but I really just want to take this piece right here and lower it. So all I have to do is really just use my eraser and just kind of bring this part down. So in doing so, I might want to just go back here and kind of go across, maybe like that. So if I can do that, I think I'll be a lot more happier with the results. So let's basically do that. Okay, so we're gonna go across from here and we're gonna go across. If you want, you can use a darker pencil and you can just get that going across. Okay, so we've done that. The question becomes, you know, how do we fill this in? How do we make this look right? The thing with the beak is that the feathers start over here very subtle. And they're kind of patchy too, so there's nothing wrong with making it look patchy there. And then what you want to do is just start to get more and more feathering done as you go from left to right. So this is how we lower the beak. I mean, it's unfortunate that we kind of didn't start lower, but this is part of the final editing process and looking at like what you have and how you can make things better. And unfortunately, we just had to make that change. So I'm sure you're okay with it though. So notice how I get longer with the feathering as I go away. I definitely want to ensure that I do that. And I also want the feathering down here to go over. So the beak, the bottom of the beak really goes underneath the feathering around here. But over here, it's out and prominent because there's really no feathering around there, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but visually, I'm sure you're seeing it. So yeah, so we're basically gonna keep this moving over here. And again, the feathering over here can kind of, you could start to go longer like that. Now, if you're concerned that we change that texture, just carry it forward all the way around. So carry it forward, carry it down, I mean, just over here, and just kind of do that, right? So you could do that, and if you really want, you could get some longer feathering kind of around like that. And yeah, like I said before, or much earlier in the video, you don't want to have areas just sticking out like a sore thumb. So if at all possible, try to be consistent with the look and the kind of the feel of the feathering. Now this is too wide, okay? I don't want that to be too wide. It kind of looks like almost like a rooster-like shape. So I want this to be a little more, you know, like that. And if I do this, this might look a lot more realistic. So I'm gonna do that. So basically just work my way across. Okay, now the other thing that we wanna fix up is the beak. I did lower it, and I would really like to get this curved texture looking like this. So I do my lines curved from the base and up, and I go one way and then I go another. Now, I mean, you've seen me do this before. I basically do that, and then I'll hit it with my finger to let it bleed onto the page. Now, if I'm still not happy, put a little more, darken it up until you are happy with it. So you can just do that. And you could smudge it out again if you need to. So that's that. I personally want to go darker on this beak just because it's the bottom part of this beak. And I really, really, really like to, you know, have it darker because it's below. So I'm also just randomly just fixing this piece over here, using a darker pencil. And because I use the darker pencil, I might want to just get a little bit of feathering done just below this piece. Remember, the piece that's light over here is actually a part of the eagle. It's kind of the lips, if you will. Kind of goes around like that. So it's purposely done. And just like over here, this part kind of fades into the beak. So you can definitely do that. Now, there is a piece in there in which some feathering went on top of the lip, and I might want to just hit it with the eraser. And if I do, might need to do some fixing, but no problem. Just do that. And then you can just get that feathering back on that sheet. The sheet's moving a bit too much, but that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna keep this going. Again, we're just doing the touch-ups here anyway, so it's kind of nice to see this start to come together really, really well. You know, it's funny, just before we started doing the touch-ups, I was starting to feel like I was pretty happy with the drawing, but then, you know, you look at it a bit more and you think, well, you know, I could probably fix it up just a little more, and you kind of get to that point where you're doing a lot more fixing, so that's fine. Around the eye, there's all these little tiny feathering pieces that might exist, and you just want to get them on there. And they are darker. If you look at most pictures of an eagle, they are darker around the eye, but they're tiny. They're tiny little feathers, okay? So just like that. The other thing that I want to fix is, I would say that this piece here, unfortunately, is too square and it looks too forced. So that looks a little too forced the way I had it. I'm gonna smudge it out, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is just explain to you that around here, you have even finer and even smaller feather patches, and the feather patches that exist are actually somewhat spotty too. So they are actually in patches, very patchy as well. So don't be afraid if you want to put them in patches. Now, if you did that, grab a darker pencil, sharpen it up nicely, which I'm going to do on the side. So if you sharpen up that pencil, you can also just get some tiny darker pieces over here, and it makes a tiny difference, but it does actually show really well. So this is basically why I wanted to erase that and just kind of start over. There does tend to be a bit more patchiness around the beak, and you know, I just want to show that. So I didn't want a square per se, right? Like I really just didn't want to have a square. Kind of looks very fabricated and very, you know, not realistic. So it's kind of why I wanted to do that. Down over here on the underside of the beak, you also want to go darker, but the question is, where do you go darker? Because over here is the beak, right? So the beak is over here, which we've already established and we're pretty happy with it. So if the beak comes over here, okay, the question becomes, what do we and how do we get this darker? I would use a 5B and just go darker from here down. Because the lip over there isn't going to be dark, it's kind of exposed. But just over here, you do go dark because it's kind of on the underside of this beak, right? So I'm going to put this on. And if I really wanted to, I could also use a darker pencil at the very bottom and just, just put a few lines of dark shading on. You try to blend it as much as you can. You try to have the dark flow, you know, into the beak. You can hit it with your smudge technique as you wish. And for me, I want to get darker right underneath the beak too. Right underneath the mouth of the beak is what I meant. So if we're doing that, I'm going to sharpen this one more time and get it nice and sharp, like really, really sharp. Takes a bit of effort to get these nice and sharp, but when you do, what you can do with this sharp piece is actually draw the proper beak outline. So even those jagged little inserts that we said we would do, right? Those jagged inserts were from, you know, the eagle chomping down or eating or hunting or whatever you want to call it, and that's what those little jagged parts are. So I'm purposely doing that, and I want to show that dark right underneath there, and I think it'll create a better drawing as a result. So yeah, I'm already happy, much happier with that. We agreed that this would go farther down, which it does. If you want, this can also be used, the darker pencil can be used to just put on a little more feathering down below, because I feel like there's just too much white space here. And in doing so, you just repeat this process. So if you can see what I'm doing right now, you're essentially just taking the pencil and hitting the page again and again and again. And you might want to go darker right around here where my pencil is right now, because that's the under part of the beak and there's a lot of shadows there. It also is the curvature of the, you know, the bird. So the bird might have this like curved body like that. And as a result, you just want to make sure that you're darker over there as well. So I'm going to repeat this, keep this going. Let's see, what else? Over here, I think some of this feathering could actually come right across like this. And down, right? So you might want to go over here at the top, you might want to go back, 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 back. And fill in there's that white space there, because earlier I did some erasing. So what you want to do is maybe get rid of that white space. Okay. And then over here, again, just kind of go back. Now over here, I feel like there's too much white. Let's get this just a little darker around here. I'm using a darker pencil, but I'm just going very lightly, so I'm kind of cheating. I should probably change it up, but I'm pretty comfortable in doing this. So you might want to change your pencils at this point, but if you want, you can do what I'm doing, which is just go lightly on a darker pencil as well. So I purposely went dark over here too, because there is some darker feathering around the eye on some eagles. So I purposely wanted to show that in this drawing as well. So hopefully you're seeing that. Are you drawing along as well? I'd love to know. I'd love to kind of hear from you and see how you're doing. Please let me know in the comments below. We love hearing from you and love just knowing how you're doing. Are the drawings helpful? Are you practicing your drawing? Are you just kind of here for the entertainment, the process? I mean, whatever reason you're here, we'd love to kind of hear from you about that. So please let us know. At this point, right now, I think we have well over 1,000 videos on the channel, including birds and animals, but we have shapes, we have characters, we have figure drawings, how to draw people and bodies and all kinds of stuff like that. So we have a lot of stuff like that as well, so you might also find that useful. So, you know, check out the channel and tell us what you think and all of that good stuff. Let's go darker under here. I think right underneath here should go a little bit darker. Just like that. Okay. If I did that, I also want to just go back and make sure that the line here is pretty smooth. Okay, and I'm going to go back over here and just put on a few more of these little tiny featherings just over here. There we go. So already we're looking better. I might want to darken up the line in the middle. Okay. So basically go like that. And then over here, we might want to add some darker texture just over here, because on the beak, you kind of transition from this piece, which is kind of this, you know, these lips, and the beak kind of goes like this. So if you kind of look at most pictures of an eagle, they kind of do that, just like that. It also creates the realism that these are actually curved, which they are. Actually, these aren't meant to be flat at all. These are actually meant to be curved kind of lips, believe it or not. So if we want, we could even put some of this just over here, just like this. So that kind of has a bit of a look of realism in the sense that they're curved. So there we go. Again, around the eye, I just want to go darker here. So I'm just going to go around like this and kind of go darker, darker, darker. So I'll do that. We're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting there. This is one of the more detailed drawings that I've ever done. So I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really trying to put a lot of effort into it. So the total time that this took is not what's representative of the time of the video. I sped up and did a time lapse for many parts of this video. So hopefully you see that and appreciate that this is a very detailed drawing. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I mean, give it a try. Like, see what you can do. See if you can replicate the same. See, you know, if you can challenge yourself on that and see how you do. I think that's an important thing as well. So around the top of the eye, some of the feathers also go back. So you might want to also just get some feathers going back as well as up. So a lot of these go up. You might also want to get some of these going back as well. And in doing so, you just kind of go like this and just get a few more lines that kind of go back as well. So I think we're getting there. I think over here you might want to show that some of these feathers kind of go over. You don't want to have a smooth line here, right? Because these are all feathers. You want to go over your line. So that's more realistic as well. The same reason is what we do down here. We kind of go over the line just like this, and we kind of purposely show that these feather lines kind of go across like this, right? So I just randomly jumped over to the beak because I saw something that I wanted to fix, so I wanted to fix that up as well. I'm gonna go back to the eye and make sure I'm nice and round, which I am, and I'm happy about. So that's it. Let me just stand up. I'm gonna have a look at this, see how I feel about it. I would say the last thing I might want to do is just go nice and dark below the beak. I think below the beak should be really dark. The beak should really be brighter than below, because these feathers below are dark. They're covered, they're shaded. There's not a lot of light hitting them. So I think what I want to do is just start to go darker as we go across. So I think that's the last thing I'm gonna do. So let's do this together. And what I find too is like one of the nicest things about me showing you some of these areas that we quote unquote fix up, right? Some of the things that needed to be fixed up is that if you're gonna do this drawing, you might also be able to avoid those you know, things that you might miss otherwise. Because if you're able to avoid some of the things that I, you know, missed, then you can also do better as a result. So that's also a nice way to look at that process of going through like last minute changes or changes, like the beak was a little too short and I wanted to bring it down and all those little things like that, right? So, you know, as we look at that, I might want to hit it here with the eraser because the beak does get a lot of light over here, right over here, but over here it's dark. So I might want to just use my smudge technique to bring that back. And that, as a result, I'm much happier with that. And notice the dark underneath. You don't want any kind of white underneath. So if you can really go darker underneath, it'll look a lot better. Okay. And I think the very last thing is just put this line back that somewhat got erased, which is the beak line. And that's it, really. I think we're there. I'm gonna stand up, I'm gonna have a look and see how we did. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna hit this real quick. And probably just a little too much, so I'll just fix that. Perfect. So I'm really happy with this. I hope you are too, and if you're drawing or watching, either way, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the video, practice, learn, and follow along. So thank you so much for watching and have a great day.